very confident with his own performances that he'd be able to make enough prize money throughout this season to be able to travel afar, and that's why he was confident to be able to come out to Liverpool. But going all the way back to Australia straight after this, because they got Melbourne next weekend, so a lot of travelling. But we are kicking off our finals here today. Mew VMAX versus Lost Zone Giratina begins now.
Ooh, let's see it. Let's see the first cards. What are we going to start with? Giratina and Genesect. The nice friendly fist bump there, and off we go.
Starting with 2 Giratinas. Can be strong as the Abyss seeking out a great attack, but when you're going first, you want to start getting some flower selectings off, so not ideal, but does have access to manual attachment knockouts of that Giratina if they have to.
Ooh, Brent's hand looks like it's really full of energy. It's not what you want to see, unfortunately. But here we go. Back to Fabrizio, who's going to really start doing Mew things with that hand. There's plenty to be done here and plenty of time. Mew is not a deck famous for attacking on their first turn. So although they've gone second, I don't think he's going to have an issue with keeping the pace here.
Yeah, Fabrizio in the interviews described this current form of Mew VMAX, called it the hybrid, where you got a little bit of fusion energy in there to deal with the Spiritomb. Can also attach to a single Pokemon. That can be another way to use those fusion energy, but for the most part, it won't be too important in this matchup. The main thing here is getting knockouts with a disruption until the end game, which is where Brent wants to be doing the exact same themselves. They want to be getting knockouts with disruption. So the Forest Sealstone is probably the biggest and most pivotal card in this matchup. Fabrizio, if they use it early, will not have it when they are disrupted. On the other side for Brent, if they disrupt when there's a Forest Sealstone in play, it means absolutely nothing.
Absolutely, and so those pivotal moments of this best-of-3 finals is going to be who can get that disruption to stick.
1,505 players, and now just 2. And the pressure is on for them. They are exhausted as well. You know, they've done all that work, and now they have to try and do one last performance on the big stage in the Masters final here. As you mentioned, a lot of storylines with just the decks alone. Mew VMAX trying to get the return win. Leon Kasserig winning it last year here in Liverpool with Mew VMAX, where Giratina V-Star making 4 finals in a row across the regionals in North America and Europe, looking to try and get another one to their name.
It feels to me a little bit like Mew could be hanging up its hat or giving its last hurrah before rotation. And I'm really, really excited to see how that pans out, because it just feels like the most gracious end of a Mew-based era ever. Ever. Honestly, Path to the Peak going down on Brent's turn. Brent, I believe they're going for the Abyss seeking to begin populating their Lost Zone in the less popular, slightly slower paced method of using Giratina itself rather than any Comfey.
Well, that Forest Sealstone was not used by Fabrizio. A smart player, recognizing that going for a wide board with Forest Sealstone for a Battle VIP pass early on was not worth it. It's much more of a valuable resource than that in these early stages. Had a lot of stuff needed to get out of this situation, but now looking for a Mew VMAX. Mew VMAX needed to get an attack off here. Does have the damage modifier to take down the Giratina V, but not a huge amount of draw with just 4 fusion Pokemon in play.
No, not at all. It's not really what you want to see. They've done a fantastic job of thinning their hand, but of course we see the Forest Sealstone. Fabrizio can search their deck for 1 card, and it's going to be an Ultra Ball there. I think that's a fantastic choice. It does multiple things for him. It manages to thin their hand while simultaneously gaining themselves more Pokemon. Going straight for the Mew VMAX. Start with the oppression and put the pressure on Brent as Fabrizio begins the assault.
From Brent's point of view, really not much developed on their side. They do have a lot of work to do, but the Forest Sealstone has been used, and I think Fabrizio recognizes the early tempo here is much more important than saving that resource, because Brent has not got through much of the deck, so finding all those great cards to disrupt Fabrizio, unlikely to be found now. Roxanne probably still in the deck, Path to the Peak still in the deck, so Brent got a lot of work to do.
so much, and unfortunately with a really thin loss zone, it doesn't help with that Mew VMAX. It's such a huge HP number to hit, 310. Giratina can only use that infinite damage attack once, but the loss zone still needs things in it for that to happen. The loss zone needs 10 populated cards, and at the moment sitting on just 3. It really does feel like Fabrizio is kind of dominating with this Mew right now.
When we asked Fabrizio why he went for Mew VMAX for this event, he said it's the most consistent deck in the format right now, and I think you can see exactly what he means. Pretty much every game, a Mew player will be able to do what they want to do just because of how much draw, how much access to all the important cards there are. And with heads flips on your Cramomatics, it's definitely going to be consistent at finding exactly what you need.
Absolutely, we can't be sad at that with a Cramomatic. You can discard an item card from your hand, flip a coin of heads. You can pick any card you want from your deck, put it in your hand and shuffle your deck. You really can't get much better than that. The only thing it relies on is that coin flip. And honestly, it's been working really well for Fabrizio this weekend, and it can work for you at home too. Mew still has a lot of fight left in it.
First time I picked up Mew VMAX, I hit 17 tails out of 21. I think I've told that story on stream already. And I'm sure a lot...
I think it definitely is worthy of being mentioned again, quite frankly, because I'm still shocked.
It resonates with a lot of people, I'm sure. We've all had that experience with a deck with a lot of coin flips, but of course, it's in there because it is the correct card to play, despite the odds not being as strong as you'd want. But of course, thins your hand as well, allows you to draw more. So even if you don't get the effect of the Cramomatic, the removal of 2 cards from your hand in itself is pretty good.
Yeah, precisely, and that's another reason why the Mew just keeps going, and we are taking that first KO on the Giratina V. Fabrizio taking the first 2 prize cards of our finals.
Pressure on now for Brent. The tempo has kicked off. 2 prize cards, and now just a lot of time required. Oh, that's a tough choice. More Comfeys. There is a Nespal in hand, but the Jet Energy is such a useful resource.
No, it's gone into the lost zone, not to be seen until next game.
Needing to get as many of those Pokemon out as possible, that Greninja could really help start some draw. And this is actually the first deck check here for Brent.
Yeah, you're not wrong, actually. I hadn't clocked that. The first time that Brent's going to be able to assess what they've got in deck and what might be missing. As we very well know, managing your resources in Giratina is essential. And Mew kind of doesn't have as much of a problem with that as other than energy, you know? So everything else really does rely on keeping an eye on everything for Brent.
I mean, that's what Brent was saying earlier. It's such a skillful deck. He doesn't think it's got the best win rate of any deck. It's just that it rewards you for high skill play.
Yeah.
And so consequently, a lot of top players have been piloting it to great success, and it does convert very well at events because the skill of the deck puts off a lot of beginners, and rightfully so. You have to manage your prize cards, know what's in there, manage your lost zone, manage your discard pile, and obviously all of the resources within your deck. So a very important set of skills needed, and sometimes those flower selectings you making your first turns before you've done your deck check can affect you for the rest of the game.
Yeah, you're quite right. There's a really high skill floor with this deck, and it really goes to show that our top players are now taking advantage of that with a nice path to the peak timing and an evolution to Giratina V-Star. That's going to be it for Brent this turn.
I mean, Giratina V-Star, hard to knock out. There's a lot of hit points on that Pokemon, so 1 power tablet used, it can be pretty tricky to knock out. There is a choice belt in Fabrizio's list, so that will put it into range a little bit easier, but asking quite a lot for those 3 damage modifiers to get the knockout.
I think this is why this is a really not so ideal matchup for both players. On one hand, Brent has 1 attack that can do essentially infinite damage, so Mew VMAX's high HP doesn't matter. But then how's Brent going to take that second KO when Mew can Psychic Leap and remove damage from itself? But then is that really enough damage inflicted upon Brent? There are so many to and fro's. I think this feels very much like a 50-50 matchup to me.
There we see that Lost Vacuum, so conveniently found in the hand, as is customary for a Mew player. They've always got exactly what you need because you see so much of your deck and you can hold on to the important resources for the next turn. So unless you're disrupting that hand, Mew will likely have it every time.
And there we go. Just putting another Forest Sealstone on a Genesect, making sure that every single draw is meaningful. And a retreat from the Mew VMAX into the Mew VMAX with a double turbo energy, allowing it to use Genesect's attack. There we go. Or even Mew's Max Miracle on the bench, since there are 2 Mew VMAX in play, which you don't always get to see. So it will be able to attack next turn.
Yeah, saves them to find that switch again, as we just witnessed. But a Chorus Experiment, pretty important at this stage, just to get that Lost Zone count nice and high. Start getting those Mirage Gates activated. Giratina V-Star going.
And a Sableye.
I mean, I guess there is the Giratina V-Star in play, and they're just hoping that that can carry them through the game here.
Oh my goodness. There's been really, really tough Colress and Flower Selects this game for Brent. I could definitely feel the pressure. I wouldn't be the one to be the one making those decisions, I can tell you, Mike.
That's for sure. I mean, no particular cards in Brent's list teching for Mew VMAX. We've seen Avery's and we've seen Spiritomb sometimes venture into the Giratina V-Star list, which can really help in this matchup. Instead, just leading into the consistency of playing well into everything in the room, as Mew VMAX, the deck that gets teched for the most, I think is fair to say. And so consequently, no tech here does mean the Mew VMAX is able to do exactly what it wants most of the time. I
think Mew has had a pretty valid resurgence right now in the meta for good reason. The Mew players have established, okay, this hybrid version of the deck is able to get around the techs that were put in exclusively for Mew, and by using Path to the Peak themselves and enough removal to deal with that, it takes Path being a problem off the table. The Fusion Strike energy takes Spiritomb being a problem off the table. Drapion is really their only remaining tech card that can actually actively deal with Mew VMAX, and few and far between decks are playing it right now, as it tends to be more of a liability than a help.
I mean, at this stage, I would be interested to see what the route is. Just going to go for that big swing, going to be using the Lost Impact onto the active Mew VMAX. There is potential for a Psychic Leap here, which would remove all that damage. Otherwise, the Sableye will be able to come in and finish off that Mew VMAX with a lot of damage on it.
Yeah, Sableye loves being able to come up and just mop up those damage counters. Keeping a close Sable eye on the damage counters can be essential to making sure that as a Lost Zone player, you're able to take advantage of every single moment, and it's all about that timing, as we've been saying all weekend. However, there is the Psychic Leap on board. It won't do much to this Giratina, however, there's a lot of Pokemon on the bench there that could be susceptible to a Psychic Leap, and Fabrizio would still be able to get a knockout. That would take them down to 2 prize cards. So looking at their prize map right now, they do want to take another single prize KO, and then preferably the Giratina. So of course, there we are. As we're saying it, there comes the boss to take out the Sableye, and it's very likely we will see maybe a Power Tablet into a Psychic Leap.
Maybe, and there is a Lost City in Fabrizio's list. So if they get that Lost City down and take the knockout, that would mean Sableye is completely removed from the game, as the earlier Sableye was put into the Lost Zone. And that would be huge right now for Fabrizio.
Yeah, taking out both Sableye, and that's the problem that I find with Giratina into Mew VMAX, is you can deal with one Mew VMAX. The second Mew VMAX tends to be the problem. Otherwise, it's better to go for a 2-2-2 prize map where you focus down on Mew Vs and Genesects. But that is just so much work for a deck like Lost Zone Tina.
And to get the heads right there, they're going to be going through their deck to find, I assume, that Lost City at this stage. I'm not quite sure what was taken off of it, but the Cramomatic finding exactly what they need. So we'll see what they go for. They have already used the support of this turn, so hand disruption won't be a choice. They could be looking to get set up for more attacks in the future, but...
Maybe the Choice Belt?
Could be the Choice Belt. I'd be intrigued as to what they go for here. Yeah,
for myself, I would either be wanting the choice belt or another card to thin. Just something to take out of my deck to, like an Ultra Ball to like allow me to thin my hand more so I can draw more cards. So I feel like those are the only two things other than a Lost City that I'd be looking for personally.
Yeah, the Lost City looked like it was brought to the front there as a potential option. So we might hope to draw into it as well. But yeah, the Lost City was used so beautifully in the semi-finals. I got a chance to watch that while you guys were watching Brent, and the Lost City was the key card.
Yeah.
Because Brennan was playing Roaring Moon, and so as soon as the Roaring Moon got the knockout on the Mew VMAX, the Lost City came in and removed it from play.
Yeah.
So that Lost City,
clever.
Genius inclusion here, something that a lot of people forget to put into the double turbo build of Mew and often just have it in the fusion build, but that's where this hybrid comes in, taking the best aspects of both decks and compiling it together.
I think it's a really beautiful end for Mew almost. It started with this Fusion Strike variant, and we have had a whole history of Mew VMAX at this point where we went from that Fusion Strike variant, then people started to change it up into the DTE, the Double Turbo Energy variant, and now we're ending its era with a hybrid of the two. I think that's quite magical.
Okay, so there we go. I think that was a Max Miracle onto the Sableye. I wasn't trying to Psychic Leap. Happy with the idea of the Mew VMAX being taken out here. And that will be the first knockout to begin the race for the final Giratina V-Star knockout, which is in range. We saw some power tablets saved. There's a choice belt as well. But the Box of Disaster that was put onto the Mew VMAX, I don't think will do anything at this stage. That was just to thin it out the deck. And that is really what we're seeing from Fabrizio, just a lot of thinning to try and set up as stable a deck after being disrupted towards that endgame with a Roxanne.
It's almost a bit of a shame the Box of Disaster won't be activated because it would put the Giratina into a much nicer range for Mew VMAX to be able to cope with.
I don't know if it's possible for a Giratina to get it because Box of Disaster doesn't activate from Star Requiem because it's not considered damage from an attack.
Right.
So the Box of Disaster in this matchup is just an instant thinnable card that you can put down and not have to worry about.
I suppose it's better used on a Mew V that could be vulnerable or a Genesect, but that would be all really.
I guess expecting, well, with all the Forest Seal Stones on the Genesects, they can't put it on one of those. They don't want to block the choice belt on a future Mew VMAX. So the only place it could be thinned was on that active Mew that was likely going to be knocked out here.
Yeah, I think you're quite right there. Fabrizio only needs to take 2 prize cards now to be the first victor of a game. Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Taking out that Mew VMAX.
No path.
No path, just a Cramorant.
That was,
Cram against the world.
I think that was going to be the plan there for Brent. Just get a path to the peak down after that Roxanne, and that would disrupt Fabrizio enough that Brent would be able to come back and get that big knockout needed in the next turn. But without that, all those Genesect available to draw, I think Fabrizio is going to see so much of their deck this turn.
I'm not sure Brent can do much about it either. If Fabrizio is able to get the Mew VMAX in range of one-hit KOing this Giratina V-Star on the bench and the boss's orders they've just put back into the deck with Palpad, it could be scary. Now, they do have 2 Battle VIP Pass in hand. They're going to need to thin that hand to be able to draw many cards with these Genesect now.
They could try and reach for it here. They've got a choice belt and a power tablet, which would begin the search for all the things needed. And there's also the boss's orders in hand. But I think the last power tablet is actually in the prizes.
Oh.
So there is 1 power tablet in the prizes. I think 1 was used early on for the first Giratina V. And then I think there was another one used. Oh, no, there wasn't. There was a Max Miracle, right? So there's 2 power tablets in deck. The choice belt as well. And then, Fusion Energy. Not the power tab.
Looks like an Alyssa Sparkle. Attach for turn. Going for a Judge.
Oh, my. So there's not going to be a way to get that Giratina V-Star up.
No, not this turn. So it might feel a bit like a waste of a power tab. I'm not sure how I feel about that. But I'm sure Fabrizio has a better plan than I could ever concoct, as they are the Mew expert of the day.
I guess they're going to go for another power tablet and then go for a Psychic Leap if possible. And then that way leaving no 3 prizes in play.
Yeah, very much so. That could work. This does give Brent an opening if Brent can Lost Impact a Mew VMAX here.
But if they get that Psychic Leap off with the 2 power tablets, that would knock out the Cramorant, leave 1 prize for Fabrizio, and leave no 3 prizes in play. So I think that's the route Fabrizio's gone for here after doing that judge.
I think it has to be, right? That's the only line of play that I can see.
Oh, there's the power tablet.
There it is.
So I think that's going to be possible. Oh my goodness.
And that's it. That will psychically be able to knock out Cramorant, and Mew VMAX goes back into the deck, leaving 0 3 prize Pokemon for Brent to take advantage of this turn, which will allow the game to go on.
My goodness, and there's the boss's orders to be able to get around the Giratina V-Star that might be left in the active.
Oh, the last power tablet's still there.
I don't know if it'll be, I mean, at this point, they need to take out 1 prize. So they'll want to just try and play around the Giratina V-Star. So that power tablet no longer needed. At the moment, the boss was not available in that hand.
Nope.
Just accepted that I'm going to have to go down a different route and completely changed that direction. Very smart from Fabrizio after recognizing the hand was never going to be able to get close enough to that boss's orders.
And Brent, I mean, what's the best move for Brent here? It's probably ending up with the Giratina in the active. It feels risky, but Fabrizio's gone through so many resources. They might understand that Fabrizio probably cannot one-hit KO the Giratina and will need to find another way around.
And I mean, at this point, for Brent, there is no answer. It's in Fabrizio's control. Maybe a path to the peak and just hope that there's no ways to remove it. But Fabrizio, I think, had a Lost City in hand. So the draw is going to be there to get the next attack off. And the Mew VMAX is in hand. All these different things, they are all available.
Another Giratina. Ah, okay.
Just going to be getting that out. And I guess that is a target for if an escape rope is the only way to move something in the active. So very smart there. Okay.
Here we go.
My goodness, do you have a path to the peak to try and add some more disruption?
I hope so.
Going to go for a Genesect rather than Mew. You can't knock out both Mews, so you may as well get rid of as much draw as possible. A knockout on the Genesect. Can Fabrizio get it off of this next turn? Can they draw into their victory a Battle VIP pass? That's not ideal.
That's not what we wanted to see. We're going to need a bit more card draw than that. We do have the Mew VMAX already, though, in hand. I think there's a Lost Vacuum. I can't see if there is a supporter that's going to be very helpful. There was a boss.
Yeah, there is the boss there, but they need to try and develop the next attacker. They need to find an energy here.
They need energy, and there's only 2 Genesect. They can only draw up to 4 cards in their hand, so at the moment they are over the limit. Yo, okay, Lost Vacuum getting rid of the boss on a Forest Seal Stone. Lost City is going down. The second boss brings forward Radiant Greninja.
Could be anything. I think any of those three.
And it's going to be a draw 3 from the first Genesect.
And it's just to get an energy. There's not many cards left in that deck. And an energy is there. And that's going to be it.
That brings it home. Kept keeping up the momentum. We've got game 1 winner, Fabrizio.
Fabrizio showing exactly why they've made it to this final, thinning their deck down to make them stable in those final stages. And of course, having to change their game plan in the final moment. They had all the damage modifiers to get that Giratina V-Star, but they didn't think it was the likely outcome. So they went for the judge, Psychic Leap approach, and after all that thinning throughout the game, their deck was near impenetrable. They could always find exactly what they needed.
I think the moment that I really loved was that Psychic Leap. That was the pinnacle point of the match.
Genius.
Absolute genius. Take the win condition away from your opponent. Just pulling the wool from under them, just going, nope. I love it. Absolutely astonishing. A fantastic game 1 of our best of 3 of the Masters Finals.
Liverpool has been exceptional, and these 2 players have dismantled the locals. They've dismantled those traveling from across Europe, and they've left it with an Australian versus a Peruvian in the final. Just to add, Brent is half Peruvian as well. Just a fun little bit of trivia. So we've got 1.5 Peruvians in the final. But of course, both these players you know they're good when they've traveled all that way, because you have to make it worth it. And for both these guys, this is going to be their most successful event outside of their home regions. So they're excited to try and show what they're capable of and put their names down as those players to watch at some of these future international championships.
Absolutely, getting your name in the Liverpudlian history books over here, making their name known. And ooh, okay, I'm not loving Brent's prize cards there.
I mean, it depends if there's a battle VIP pass in that starting hand. We'll be having a look, but starting off with the flower selecting, that's never a good sign. And the
boss's orders and jet energy, pass to the peak down.
Oh my goodness, surely not.
Pass the turn.
My goodness. Thankfully for him, there's not going to be an attack coming his way, but that is not ideal.
Actually, with this build of Mew, there could be an attack because you can psychic leap.
My goodness.
Actually, Mike, this could be it. If Fabrizio's Mew does some beautiful, displayful drawing of those cards from the deck, we could see a KO here.
My goodness. As you mentioned, normally when we look at the double turbo energy build, there is no access to it. But with 2 fusion energy in the deck,
and going second,
a possibility.
Oh, there is a judge, so we won't be seeing Alyssa's Sparkle, so it does make it a little less likely there now.
Yeah, now not possible, but of course still a very good start.
Yes, yeah, being able to play the judge instead unfortunately takes away that possibility, but it was there.
That was exciting for a moment. Now I was ready.
You guys should have seen Mike when the realization dawned upon him.
I was ready, but not now. We take a moment to breathe. And actually that judge is huge because Brent did have a Chorus Experiment in that hand. So he would have been able to start the engine of his Lost Zone Pokemon.
But instead we're going straight back in for a flower selecting. At least we've got another Pokemon now. That's very good. But unfortunately the hand is not looking great. We'll be able to Nestball, I imagine, going for Comfey to just continue on with that trend. Just keep getting things in the Lost Zone. I suppose the other choice would be a Radiant Greninja, but it isn't going to help populate that Lost Zone. But saying that, we don't have access to Cramorant, so the first Lost Zone important number of 4 isn't really relevant right now.
And I wonder if they're worried to put an Abyss Seeking in action. You know, if you put that Giratina into the active and you sit it there, it is vulnerable to the first knockout, as we saw in the last game. So going to be going for that flower selecting to try and build up the lost count. That was not possible last time.
No, not at all.
Didn't start with the Comfey, so this is going to be a tough old dig for Brent. Going to have to really work their way out of the frustrating starts they've had in both games. And for Fabrizio, just sitting on the other side with a full board, there is a Path to the Peak in play, which would have made it impossible for the Greninja. And so now we are just seeing that next flower selecting.
It really goes to show how flexible the 2 decks are, though. We're seeing completely different gameplay from game 1 in a very different way, and they've had to go for the risk of leaving Giratina V in the active after putting 3 energy in the Lost Zone. 3!
Not ideal. This is just a hope that Fabrizio has judged them into a poor hand, but as we know, there is a Forest Seal Stone. You can see the joyful finger movement of Fabrizio.
Straight away, going to get out of that Path to the Peak, allowing Fabrizio to do as they please on this turn is rather scary, if you ask me. Brent not having nothing to respond immediately with other than some more sweet Comfey.
Oh my goodness. This is exactly why Fabrizio picked this deck. It's the most consistent deck, plays the most games of Pokemon, and we see the Lost Vacuum. This is one of those crazy stories for Mew. Mew started with one of the most prolific beginnings with that Fusion Strike system. So most people were going, how do we beat this? We'll put a Path to the Peak in play. That will disrupt them. And then eventually Mew went, I can do that too, and became one of the best Path to the Peak players in the game. And it's because of that Lost Vacuum inclusion, allows you at any moment to be able to remove it from play, and the Forest Seal Stone just makes it that bit more consistent.
Incredible, really. Every single set, Mew seems to have picked up a card or 2, and it's just grown into this absolutely perfect deck. Not only has it won the World Championships, but now looking like another victory might be on the cards to keep its title as Liverpool champion for the final time, as it will not be able to continue this legacy next time.
Okay, so there was no double turbo energy. Does have the Ultra Ball to be able to get the Mew VMAX and try and find an energy of some more draws. But you'll just see so many cards in a turn. Once you get the Fusion Strike system going with 6 Fusion Pokemon in play, you do see a lot of your deck. And with the addition of that Ultra Ball to be able to thin cards down, find the cards you need, and continue going through the deck. And even like the instant playable cards like Switch, perfect to help dig through the deck.
Absolutely, you're not wrong. And there's so much that can be done with Mew. It's so flexible. It's got...
Oh, there's the energy.
Oh my goodness. The choice belt's already on. Energy's there. Mew itself has free retreat. Another Ultra Ball to keep thinning the hand. We've got another Genesect left yet. Mew just keeps chugging. It just keeps going. And I think that's the beauty of it. It's why a lot of people like the deck. It's why it has come so far in this competition.
The only saving grace now for Brent is that Fabrizio hasn't got a Forest Seal Stone anymore. That is literally the only thing right now I can see as a positive, because it does mean a path. Roxanne, counter catch up a Genesect, could buy some turns back to restabilize. There could be an opportunity to then take a victory that way. But at this stage, a knockout on the lone Giratina V, copying that Techno Blast. Mew VMAX sitting in the active. Not much Brent can do, but hope.
I'm not feeling great about this, if I'm honest, Mike. Brent's going to have to put another Giratina into play, risking an unfortunate series of events which could repeat themselves, as Giratina would need to be in play for one full turn to be able to evolve. Shred, unfortunately, isn't going to do nearly enough damage, and there isn't a lot in the Lost Zone, but Mew is already setting the pace of this game, and it's rolling.
I think the only thing we could see here is potentially using that Greninja, but there was a Water Energy in the Lost Zone. Does play 3, so we'll still have access to that, and that would allow for 2 Mew VMAX to be softened up with a 90 hit point attack.
Aw, that's a lovely way of putting it.
Mew is a big softie.
Okay, yeah, we love a good Colress. We love a Colress. 7 in the Lost Zone now, so we're at one of our magic numbers for the Lost Zone. We've got our Mirage Gate live, but I don't know if it's going to be a whole lot of help right now. Another Giratina V-Star, but it's hitting the Lost Zone. I'm not sure what Brent is searching for here. Honestly, I cannot fathom what must be going through his head right now.
I mean, he's going to try and thin the deck as much as possible. We saw that same strategy from Fabrizio. They know disruption is key in this matchup. Does have that Sableye now, so can do a similar kind of thing to what we described there about softening up the 2 Mew VMAX. And we'll just allow Fabrizio to take a 1 prize knockout. And that way the Roxanne is activated and there will be the disruption with the path accessible towards the end of the game. Now that the Forest Seal Stones are gone, that is an option. And how Brent does it, we'll have to see.
That's the thing. Now that Fabrizio is through a lot of resources, Brent could turn the tides with that disruption. I think it's very well noted and might be the key to victory here.
Yeah, just holding that Roxanne too.
Okay, an attach retreat, keeping an energy on the other Comfey for later. We can use it with Lost Impact. It can be a retreat cost later. There could be so much, but we're going for our first Lost Mine.
Hey, you can see there the 3 on each of them. That puts them within range of a Lost Impact. And then the 6 onto the Mew V puts that within range of another Sableye. So you can remove the Mew V in the future and potentially go down a 2-2-2 prize map. But the INO coming through, and that's going to reset that hand of Brent's, which had the Roxanne in it.
Oh, that's not ideal. Fabrizio saying, okay, well, if that's how it's going to be, then I'm going to disrupt your hand. Let's see how you like it. But it's very clear Brent's done a lot of testing. They've made sure they know this matchup back to front. There was a lot of confidence in that Lost Mine, placing those damage counters. They know exactly where they need to go to make this difficult for Fabrizio now.
Well, Roxanne was in that last hand. It's now on the bottom of the deck. The other Roxanne is in the prize card,
Oh,
so
no.
yeah, we'll need to try and find a way to dig back down to it. No other hand disruption available, so it is literally 2 Roxanne or nothing. There is 2 Countercatcher, there is 4 Path, so that part of the big disruption turn of Roxanne, Path, Countercatcher, Genesect is possible. We'll see how it goes.
We will indeed. There's still everything to play for. Brent can still bring it back. The Sableye may have been KO'd, but there is still time. Brent's going in for a nest ball there. It could simply be to shuffle the deck. A lot of the time, that's what I'm using mine for. And yep, failing that, going in, well, no, sorry, I think they might have taken the Giratina, actually.
Yeah.
Taking the Giratina and then going in for the Mirage Gate, starting to get set up once again.
I mean, it starts thinning that deck too. You know, Mirage Gate, Giratina down, increase the odds of hitting that Roxanne that you need. But the thing about flower selecting is you could just see 2 very important cards. Might see, you know, like a Giratina V-Star and a Roxanne in the same one. But it's actually going to be going for the Colress here. So that Giratina V on the bench going to be very vulnerable. Oh, this is scary right now for Brent. It's going to be a risky time with that Giratina V on the bench.
Looking at Fabrizio's prize map now, they've got to take 3 prize cards remaining. That's going to be 1 single prize Pokemon and 1 2 prize Pokemon. Taking out a Giratina V is going to be much easier on them. So if they take advantage of the fact that it cannot evolve right now, this is their moment. This is their moment to solidify the win, I think.
I do not feel comfortable for Brent right now. The no disruption on the 3 prize turn can be quite scary. He's going to put both Giratina down, so if the Giratina knockout does come through, it's not going to end the game there and then.
No, it is still, you know, Brent will still be in it, and with enough disruption, they might be able to pull back the comeback of all comebacks. That would be really, wouldn't it?
I mean Giratina V-Star, sorry, I'm choking up at the idea of Giratina V-Star coming back here. If Giratina V-Star comes back in this moment now, I think we can safely say it is one of the best comeback decks in the format. You know, having Roxanne plus Path, plus those counter catchers, plus such a great attacker like Giratina V-Star, that would be incredible, but it's so unlikely. And if it happens now, we shall see something quite special.
I honestly don't think I could contain my excitement, but it can happen.
I mean, it's still possible. Fabrizio.
It is absolutely still possible. And if anyone can make it happen, I believe that it's Brent Tonisson.
We've got to believe in him now.
I do.
Everyone, put your belief out there. Another heads for the Cramomatic.
Oh,
my goodness.
The timing, unfortunately, impeccable for that heads.
I mean, from the stream's point of view, that looks like all Fabrizio's been hitting his heads. I did actually watch the semi-final game, and he didn't get many heads over there, so I think we're saving them all for the final somehow. But we'll be able to get any card they want. My goodness, this is just going perfectly for Fabrizio.
It is, but the choice of what to take here is crucial. These last few turns as we head towards the possible end of our finals are going to be crucial. It's going to be so important to take exactly the right cards and sequence this perfectly.
Fun little fact about Fabrizio's deck, only playing 3 Cramomatics.
Oh.
Typically in a 4 count in most decks, most VMAX decks, but you know, obviously recognizing another card was important, and maybe it was something like a Lost City that ended up being the case.
Oh, speak of the devil, and there it is. Lost City coming down, possibly to try and remove one of the Giratinas. Maybe just a thin. Yeah, getting rid of the path was really important, wasn't it? So I imagine that was taken off the Cramorant so that Fabrizio can continue to draw cards. I think taking out one of the 2 Giratina could be important here, but I don't know. Maybe it signifies there's no rush. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, maybe there's no rush at all, actually. Taking 1 prize card here and then taking one of the 2 Giratina next time could be perfectly viable too.
Yeah. Saving all those boss's orders. Maybe backing the idea that Brent won't be able to evolve both Giratina V and that one of them will remain unevolved. That could be a part of the strategy there, because obviously it's quite hard to knock out a Giratina V-Star. 280 hit points for Mew is a bit of a reach sometimes. You've got the Choice Belt, you've got 4 power tablets, not always easy to string them all together. But Fabrizio just can relax here and just keep swinging. but needs to prep themselves for that end game as much as possible as they get another knockout.
Go. The conveyors down, Fabrizio down to 2 prize cards remaining. Can Brent be disruptive enough to keep the Mew VMAX away?
Oh, there's the Roxanne.
There's the Roxanne.
This is the turn right here.
Here we go. They did have to lost zone a boss's orders though, which might be not very favorable for the end of the game.
Oh, it's that Giratina V-Star that's not in the hand. I mean, got the jet energy there, so can put that forward.
And I imagine we're going to see the Roxanne now with an attempt. Oh, and a path to the peak first. Love it.
Is this going to be a Roxanne
Here we go.
to find the Giratina V-Star, to evolve the active Giratina V?
To take a knockout,
That
to
would be
begin the comeback of all comebacks. Let's go, Brent.
Can he do it? Brent attempting what has never been done before here. Giratina V-Star, not only is it in the final right now where there's the maximum stakes on the line, but does get them.
Two Giratina V-Star. We can evolve both of them to keep them away from Mew with a 2-card hand and a path to the peak down. Will Fabrizio be able to come back, or is this comeback happening?
And this is what we spoke about at the beginning of the final. That Forest Seal Stone is such an important asset for Fabrizio. Moments like this, that Roxanne, 2 cards, if none of them bounce the stadium, get rid of that path to the peak, then Brent will have free reign to end this game.
I'm on the edge of my seat. Here it comes, the V-Star. We say goodbye to 1 Mew VMAX. Brent is now only 3 prizes away from victory. Can Fabrizio respond? First up, we're going to see a Nespal. We're going to thin that deck a little bit, take a Mew out, but there is a lot of cards left.
I mean, I don't think they can at this stage. That hand, it's going to be a Judge.
A Judge, okay.
I mean, the Psychic Leap is a possibility as well. We've got to think about that. You could just leave 2 prizes in play like we saw last time.
Yeah, last game. That's very, very true. They could delay the game, the ending, to see if it's possible to continue this match a little longer, giving them time to possibly get out of that path to the peak and draw into more cards. Alyssa Sparkle, Cramomatic, okay.
Oh, but you don't want to get rid of that power tablet.
Oh, that is a tough choice. My word. Maybe they just go for the Psychic Leap, but it just, it feels bad. It feels bad, doesn't it?
I mean, you did get that second Mew V down, Fabrizio. Smart decision. Opens up the possibility for the Psychic Leap.
Oh, this is going to be so close. This is on a wire.
We'll see what happens.
Fabrizio's going for it.
Oh, my goodness. The Cramomatic.
Oh, success!
Does get that heads. What are they going to be getting here? Lost Vacuum. Will they be able to get enough damage modifiers to get the knockout? They have the choice belt. There is a power tablet in the prize cards.
Oh, but it could happen.
It's possible.
Oh, this is the joy of the Pokemon trading card game.
So that's one of the damage modifiers taken away through that Cramomatic. The power tablet gone, but a Lost Vacuum here.
Here we go. Alyssa, sorry, lovely. You're going to have to go to the Lost Zone and look after everything else in there for now. Because finally it's going to be time to draw some cards. Drawing up to 6. They're basically going to take most of their deck at this stage. There's not a lot left.
And obviously those power tablets the target now. Just needs 2 power tablets to win the game here.
That's 1.
That's 1, and there's a Cramomatic there too.
Come on, it might come down to the Cram.
My goodness, the crowd is getting excited for this moment right now.
I'm excited for this moment. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, counting how many cards are left. There's a lot of thinning that can be done with that hand. Lost Vacuum. We got a path to the peak still. Woo.
Yeah, I mean, the path comes down. You can Lost Vacuum your own path
road.
away.
Let's go, Mike. Come on.
If he gets it, he got it! Heads on the Cramomatic.
Here we go. We got 1 power tablet, 2 power tablet, and that's a handshake.
Fabrizio is your Liverpool regional champion, piloting Mew VMAX all the way from Peru.